Hi, I am Scarlet Dangerfield. I am the VP of Human Resources over at Hi-Rez Studios. We are the makers of Smite, Rogue Company, Paladins, and Realm, and a handful of other games that are not really supported at this point. But I've been in games for probably about 12 years and HR for about 18. So nice to meet you all.
Hi everyone, I'm Jesse Johnson. I'm the game architect and lead developer of Beat the Bomb. It's a immersive gaming experience and that we're actually opening up in Atlanta, about west of Buckhead. And it's kind of like an escape room where you go from room to room playing like 10-minute games, and then based on your performance, you play a final game, and if you don't win, you get blasted with a paint bomb, hence Beat the Bomb. It's a lot of fun, makes great videos, and yeah, so.
Excellent. All right, and Bob.
Hello, hopefully most of you know me. My name is Bob Carter. Grew up here in Atlanta, long-time voice actor, broadcaster, owner of the Neighborhood Studios, which is a teaching and production studio where we help aspiring creatives become working creatives. And I work on a variety of different projects, all involving post-production and primarily audio.
Excellent. Thanks. And so there is one thing before I get into the questions that I told my wife I was going to do this, Bob. Okay. All right. So I actually met Bob at Southern Fried Gaming Expo last month. It was a wonderful panel, and my first time meeting Bob. And so I'll keep this story short, but when the panel started, you asked if we had water. Right, and I didn't have water ready, and I was like, oh, shame. I'm here with voice acting legends, right? And so Bob's like, don't worry, I'll go get water, right? And I was like, wow, what a great guy. So you come back and you bring Tim and I water. Tim, boom shakalaka, is it the shoes? Y'all know Tim. So the panel begins. I have my water, and then all of a sudden, at the end of the panel, I'm walking with my wife, and she's like, where did you get that Monster? I had a Monster energy drink. And I was like, I don't know. And she was like, did you steal that from Bob? And I was like, I think so. So, Bob, I have something for you. This isn't the same one. It's the same flavor. Again, I don't know if I stole your Monster.
I didn't steal it. I brought them all for all of us.
See, all right, so my...
No. Remember, it was sponsored by, Southern Fried Gaming Expo was sponsored in part by Monster. So I made sure that I brought us waters and Monsters to be considerate, to give them a plug, right? Always take care of your sponsors. That's the commercial side of me thinking like that. But thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I promise this will go to good use.
Excellent. Yeah, it was, but she was like, you stole Bob's art. And then, you didn't mention this, but Bob is the voice of Shao Khan from Mortal Kombat. So I was like, I stole Shao Kahn's Monster. Remind me to show you a picture of me being like, sorry. All right, but enough of that. Sorry?
He's Odin and Smite, and and Olorun, and Atlas as well. I'm very fortunate to have been cast as several of the characters, and to have that kind of range, especially with a game that's cast nationally, like Smite, it's a pretty big deal. So.
Excellent. All right, so I had to get that out of the way. So now we're going to get into the questions, and I guess what's the best thing, just to pass along the microphone? So as an instructor, I always try to point the students in the right direction, motivate them, and one of the things that I always mention is to build a portfolio. Being in the industry, what would you say are the key elements to have in a portfolio? And I guess we can start down.
Thank you. For me, it's going to be dependent upon the kind of position that you're applying for, but please have pieces for the job that you're applying for in your portfolio. I'm looking for a rigger right now at the moment. I pulled up the portfolio today, or a handful of portfolios today, and they would have lots of pieces of animation or 3D modeling. So you do want to really kind of focus that portfolio on the position you're applying for, and more so even focus it towards the games that you're applying for. So we have at Hi-Rez, we have stylized games, and we also have realistic games. And we really want to see pieces in that portfolio that we can see in the game, that we can imagine at least in the game that you're applying for. So definitely you want to customize it towards the positions you're keen on.
Yeah, in a similar aspect, so I guess I could speak for the indie world. A lot of indie developers want like a person that's kind of well balanced in a lot of different fields. So animation, rigging, modeling, software development. So if you're trying to get your foot in the door into an indie development job, it is good to have kind of a fleshed out resume of different things, but also little pieces of on your portfolio that do make you look, unique and interesting that could be applied to the specific developer you're looking for. So like, I know for something I applied to, I actually had a bunch of like custom Nerf blasters on my portfolio. So that kind of was like drew the interest of the person that hired me, just because it was like, wow, you have a knack for like an eye for 3D like sculpture in a way, even though it was just Nerf blasters. It's kind of fun. So fun little angle for your portfolio building.
I would also like to remind you that Scarlet is one of the most important people here. I mean, come on, being the HR director for Hi-Rez, she is who you want to speak to when it comes to breaking into the industry, right? So what you want to do is, first of all, break through her bubble of busy. Obviously, you need to have your resume, but more importantly than just your resume, you need to have that portfolio that you have put together over months or years or even just weeks of the different video games that you have helped produce with game jams, right? So getting involved, just playing, hanging out with your friends, game jams. Game jam, game jam, game jam, because they need to see that you can do this, that you're functional and not just academic, but that you can actually put in the grind to get these things done. Recently, I had somebody that I needed post-production done. So I needed a master of Premiere. And I had a graduate who came to me and, he had great grades throughout his collegiate career, but when I asked for his shows, when I asked for his projects that he had put together, that he had worked on, he couldn't show me anything. I mean, come on, show me the weekend projects on YouTube, show me the funny videos, the parodies, the whatever, but you've got to show that you are a creative with a capital C, especially for indie studios, because they need people that have a lot of different tools in their tool belt. Does that make sense? Okay.
Awesome. And you mentioned game jam, game jam, game jam. We've already mentioned it one time, but Gwinnett County Public Library, having a month-long game jam in November. So we have Tanya and Eli here from the library. Be sure to reach out to them.
What's the age range on that, by the way?
Age range?
All ages.
All ages. That's huge, by the way, right? That helps in terms of getting into colleges. That helps in terms of just getting that basic understanding of coding, of participating, of being part of a group or a team. So that's perfect for anybody with kids, anybody that knows kids, anybody that knows young people who love to play video games, which is everybody in this room.
Absolutely. Well, that was great insight, of course, from the Hi-Rez to the indie. The next question I would have that students ask is when they tend to be hesitant to, for example, events like this, hesitant of showing off their work, kind of intimidated, like, the head of this studio is going to be here, or this person from the industry is going to be here. I'm not sure I want to share my work. What are your thoughts on, I guess, the preparing for an event like that, and advice you would give to a student who is hesitant maybe of their work?
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer right off the bat, but I guess some initial thoughts. Creating your portfolio is almost like a full-time job. It is something our art director on Smite told me once when he was trying to get his first job, that like, you're going to be working on that 40 hours a week. You're going to treat that like your job. So share your portfolio, reach out to people on LinkedIn, reach out to teachers at your school, anyone that you can connect with, just to start getting feedback on your portfolio, so you can kind of keep honing that in until you get to the point where you are comfortable to come to an event like this and meet people in person. But even with that, you're still just going to be getting more feedback, right? You're going to start getting that networking then kicked up. And that is how a lot of people get jobs, or at least their first job. Or actually, I think I've gotten my last 2 jobs in the industry just based off of networking. So you always want to kind of at least keep that wheel spinning.
Yeah, as a person that's also, still struggling with, being comfortable showing my portfolio, you do have to realize, and this is going to sound harsh, that even if, your portfolio is not great and you show it off to somebody and they tell you it's not great, you know where to build. You know how to make it better. And every time you fail, you're going to make it better. I know that sounds really cliche and dumb, but that's how it works. You just got to keep trying, keep hitting that wall, and then eventually you'll break through. But also to talk about the portfolio some more, you do just have to really be really passionate about talking about what's on your portfolio, know what's on it, and just be open to, be that exciting guy in the room when you're talking about your games or the work you've done. And that's kind of how I got my job. I was literally just talking about what I thought was a failed thesis project, and a guy across the room just saw me talking about it and handed me a business card. So, even if you're talking about your failures, as long as you're passionate about it and you've learned from it, you might draw some attention.
I also want to remind you that in terms of being intimidated, what you want to do is expand your comfort zone. You have to realize we are all big nerds. We're just older than you. We're the biggest nerds in the room, all right? We're the biggest nerds in the room because we've been doing it longer, and we have an even deeper understanding of every edition, every generation of the entire build that led up to this particular version. So even now, thinking about it, notice I got chills right there. Somebody brought up D&D, and as soon as that came out, actually it was Paul and it was Ben, and as soon as it came out, I was like, really? Yeah, you don't need to be intimidated so much. I understand that also there are a lot of introverts when it comes to the gaming industry, right? And so peopling can be hard, but you can be passionate about what you care about because you can also appreciate the fact that we all have a fandom, right? And you've poured your energy, your emotions, your highs, your lows, your stresses, your frustrations, all of that into your creation. Whether it's your story that you've been working on, your art that you've been drawing, the production piece that you've been building, whatever that is, we appreciate that. We appreciate that more than anybody. So don't be a perfectionist, right? You want it to be excellent, right? Strive for excellence, not necessarily perfection, because if you're ashamed or embarrassed to show it off, we can appreciate the bones of whatever that structure is that you're putting together because we understand what it took to make that. And we also have the creative vision to see where it could go that you might not even know about. Okay? So what I want you to do is not so much be intimidated and try to get out of your comfort zone. I want you to remember to expand your comfort zone and be comfortable knowing that we believe more than anybody else in what you're doing and what you're trying to do, because this is our industry. We've built our lives in this. So we want you to be successful. Does that make sense? Good.
Wonderful. And at this point, we've had some great responses there. I want to be sure that we get some of y'all's questions because I know that y'all have, I really want to hear their thoughts on this. So whoever wants to ask a question, just raise your hand. I'll repeat the question. Yep, that was fast.
I've got, it's kind of a little bit of a tough, I guess it might be a little bit of a tough question, and it might be more geared towards Scarlet because you're in HR. What you said makes a lot of sense, and I think everybody kind of echoed that in terms of portfolio, spending a lot of time putting it together for a specific studio, for even potentially a specific game, and maybe working up to 40 hours a week to do so. I understand that because I've been hiring as well for development and stuff, but I feel like, how do you help someone juggle their time and manage their life? Because they feel like they have very low potential or possibilities. They don't know where they're going to land, and they're trying to look at 10, 15, 20 different places and opportunities. How can they balance all of that? Is there any advice that you could give to help narrow in on what really they should be focusing on? Because you don't have enough time in the week to do everything.
Were you able to pick that up, or do you want me to repeat? Whew, that's a all right. So yeah. Correct me if I
Focus for the portfolio.
Yeah.
You know where to spend your time, because there's a lot of effort needs
Yeah. So when preparing a portfolio, how do you know where to focus your time?
Yeah, especially when you're considering multiple places to go.
Okay.
Positions and games and studios.
When you're considering multiple studios and places. Yeah.
Thank you. Photo.
There we go.
So if I were in your shoes then in that situation, I would really try to focus on like a set genre, at least kind of start off with like, okay, cool. I'm super into stylized games. I'm going to check out Paladins. I'll check out Smite. I might check out Valorant. Like trying to figure out like at least, all right, this is like a grouping of games that I'm super keen on, and try to focus your portfolio on that. I'd also start weeding out like older pieces in your portfolio, probably even school projects, and really focus more kind of on your passion pieces as you're building that portfolio out. Because everyone does have the student pieces, and they're all going to be decently similar. So we really kind of want to see like what are they more excited about, like what are they working on in their free time, and that's probably kind of the companies that you're going to gravitate towards, right? Like you really like that kind of more stylized art pieces. If you're a 3D modeler, you're probably going to be gravitating towards those studios to begin with, and then your portfolio will already be geared towards that. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I'm a Twitch streamer and a podcaster, and I've always been passionate about games. I'm wondering, what are some like entry level, because I look around for jobs in different studios in Georgia, and there don't seem to be any entry level jobs. Is that something that's like available in the games industry locally? Something that's entry level, so somebody like my background's in the medical field, so I don't have any programming, any coding, any art experience, but games is something that I'm passionate about. So are there jobs that could fit someone who doesn't have technical know-how or doesn't have, but is hardworking, is willing to learn, what are some positions that could fit someone like me?
Okay, so the question was, are there, in terms of the game industry, positions that are not require the game development, technical, education, but just broad fields, entry level. Okay, yeah, Bob, you want?
I would first and foremost say, again, game jam, because that way you're going to get introduced to these people who will understand your personality, and it's very important that you mesh with the right people. And then in addition to that, beta test, QA. I mean, it's all about quality assurance. Break the game. If you're a great gamer and you are great at video games, it is your job to break their game, right? I mean, speed runs. We love watching speed runs, and we love listening to the developers cry when their games are broken that they've spent years working on, and then somebody busted in 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, right? But then we also love hearing how they fix that and how they overcome that. They welcome that challenge. So think about quality assurance, and Hi-Rez always has that sort of thing. And there were a couple of other studios as well, but depending on the types of video games that you're into. So that really matters, because there are some games like Tripwire where it's gory and stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, again, given your medical background, you might like that, so that could work.
This is decapitation, medically accurate.
Yeah. Do y'all have something to add on that?
It's like the lottery.
Well, I don't know if this is like the best answer, but I will supplement. Game jams are great, and Unity's actually surprisingly okay to handle. Like, you can do a lot with it without touching code, without touching scripts. Now, you should learn to eventually code in Unity, because it does expand your capabilities a lot. But it's honestly, I mean, it's pretty accessible, like, nowadays. It's definitely not as dense to overcome. Yeah, for sure. And there's tons of YouTube resources. There's lots of books. Unity's really well documented. Community's great.
Have you met James Simpson? Right? Dr. Unity, right?
Dr. Unity. He's got the shirt and everything.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. I'm gonna piggyback.
Oh, there you go.
Just to piggyback on everyone else, game jams. Game jams. it's good to have, like, it's a great thing to start building out your resume of like, yep, this is really something that I am super keen on. I've actually participated in these things. You can also find freelance work that you can do as well in your spare time, just to kind of get some more stuff that you can help get some credentials onto your resume for the industry. And then I would say have a really good, well thought out cover letter of why you want to get into the industry, because that's going to help differentiate you from other entry level candidates that are applying for the positions. And you said you do Twitch and a podcast?
Yeah.
I would say community, because we look for community people. We look for content creators as well, like on our video team. Like if you want to even stay in that genre, like there are still definitely things that you can get your foot in the door with.
And mentioned freelance, so I have to reach out to you. So advice to freelancers? He's winding up.
Sorry to get a little adult here, but pimping ain't easy, but hoeing's harder. And you are going to be a happy, hard-working. Yeah, you're going to have to get your grind on. You're going to have your day job for a while. Hopefully, you won't have it always because you'll make that transition. But sometimes you're going to keep that day job because it might have the health insurance that you need. Now, there is health insurance that's offered through the GGDA, and that's a whole different plug. But I'm not going to talk about that. But in all seriousness, you've got to grind. You have to want it. This is not something to be casual about. There are ways to be casual about it. I don't know those ways. I'll be honest. I'm still trying to learn that because I work a lot. I mean, I like put in hours working a lot, so I can't say the easy way to go about things. I mean, I could say it's fun, and I could say that it's rewarding, and I could say that it's I'm passionate about my career because I have a career, and I'm very proud to have seen all of my accomplishments, and I'm also very proud of what we're striving for now and that we're taking things to the next level. I mean, I was a very successful voice actor myself, and I said, I could do better. So actually, I looked at Chris Sabat. I lost out to all kinds of roles from Chris Sabat, right? And then he opened up Okrachon Studio, and he took things to the next level. He couldn't be every deep-voiced guy, and so he would cast other people for the projects that he was working on. A rising tide raises all ships, and so that's what we're doing at the Neighborhood Studio. We have taken things to the next level. I'm now a successful voice coach in that not only am I a successful voice actor, but the people that I've coached have become successful voice actors on Smite, on Paladins, on a bunch of other video games as well. So I have that proud papa moment. And then we're now producing anime. We are now producing video games. We're now doing sound design. And we're now doing these different things and taking it to the next level. Does that make sense? So you're always going to be striving and moving on to the next level. Or hopefully you will. So that was a long answer. I'm sorry about that. For freelance.
Yeah. I knew it was going to kind of be a long, because Bob gave a great, I mean, it turned into a motivational seminar at one point at Southern Fried Gaming Expo, but it was wonderful. I got chill bumps, and I was just like, oh, freelance, got to turn it over to Bob too. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, Andrew.
Hank's Inferno on YouTube is asking about going the production route. What kind of portfolio should someone who wants to be a producer make? What is the producer's portfolio? How, and let's expand it out. Assistant producer. What do you need to show to prove that you're qualified for those roles?
Okay. So as far as pursuing a producer and assistant producer role, what should you highlight in your portfolio?
Or period. I think it goes beyond portfolio.
Oh,
Producer.
for producer. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. This hopefully a little bit of an easier one. We don't usually look at portfolios for producers, so we're really more looking at the resume. So what I would like to see in those situations is that maybe you picked up a position on a game team at school as a project lead, just some sort of like production, project management type experience on your resume is what I would be keen for.
Your team's success as much as your own. Yes. For sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure. For production, it's not just your game portfolio, it's your actual portfolio. It's whatever you've created. If it's animatics, if it's animation, if it's on camera, if it's live direction, if it's mocap, if it's audio production, Again, if it's After Effects, you want to showcase each of those features that are on your production or part of your production background. And again, being freelance, you're going to work on a lot of different types of jobs. And so the more tools that you have in your tool belt, the more examples of those projects you'll have naturally. There was also a question from him, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll let you go ahead and just
Okay.
repeat the question.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. How did I get into voiceover, and how did I become an audio producer? So I got my start in college radio back in the day at Album 88. So that has completely changed and gone away, and is now much more of a multimedia series, right? It's a new generation, so you guys have a new way of doing things. So for you guys, it's going to be getting involved with the CMII, right? The Creative Media Industries Industry CMII at GSU. KSU has its game development programs, but again, it's multimedia, right? It's streaming, it's podcasting, it's Twitch, but there's also a structure to each of those. So you've got to be able to show consistency in terms of having a successful podcast or a stream, in terms of how many you can do, because you want to show that you've got the intestinal fortitude to continue that, and that you've got the structure in place to be able to do that. In addition to that, you need to expand your comfort zone. So fun things like improvisational comedy, right? I always recommend Dad's Garage. I absolutely always recommend Dad's Garage for improv comedy because it's a lot of fun. KSU has its own improv comedy group. GSU has its own improv comedy group. I think Gwinnett Tech has its own improv comedy group, I believe. They weren't at the Southern Fried Gaming Expo, but I met them before. And then in Lawrenceville, Dad's Garage goes out to the Aurora Theater sometimes. UGA has them. Clark Atlanta has, everybody's got improv comedy groups. Or just start by watching Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's all about that constructive creativity, right? And it's about expanding your comfort zone, being willing to play. Now, as far as voiceover goes, I teach that. So you would come to the neighborhood studio. So in order to I'm happy to plug myself. In this case, again, neighborhoodstudioatlanta.com. And we teach that. So I can teach you how to become a working creative, not just an aspiring creative. And I'm very proud of the fact that our students are booking these jobs, and that we now cast for everything from Nickelodeon to Smite still. Got back on that one, and then a bunch of other video games and projects as well. Does that answer your question? Cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Going back to the first thing you guys talked about, you're applying for jobs, keeping your portfolio focused on the position. You discussed all said game jams are good, but a company like Hi-Rez that makes multiplayer action games, there's not a lot of game jams that would let you make a multiplayer action game. So how would you, if you're going to game jam route, what would you want to see? What would be translatable?
Okay. So what, in terms of, Hi-Rez, with a game jam, and you want to go the multiplayer route, what would you like to see out of a game jam?
Scarlet said earlier that she wants to see in portfolios that if you're applying for a job with them, she probably want to see if you're doing a gameplay program or game designer thing. You want to see some multiplayer action experience, but game jams, that would be very hard to do.
Yeah.
So what would be the next best thing?
Okay, so outside of game jams, what would be a great opportunity that someone could take advantage of to show their ability in working with a multiplayer game?
I would say outside of game jams, something that we're really keen to see, depending on the project and the hiring manager, is mods. We do love seeing mods that people have created. That's huge for us. In addition to that, passion projects. So even if it's something that, like, hey, you started working on for one of your semesters at school, you and your team still continue working on it, maybe you shipped it on Steam, just really kind of seeing, like, what are you most excited about? And where's your passion lie? That's what we're most keen on finding out.
And I guess as a technical answer, if you do want just like a clean example of how to I know how to do multiplayer games. Look up Photon, look up Unity. There it is. I'm sure you already know about it, but just working through that pipeline, knowing, your limitations, what you got to account for, what hurdles are you going to run into. Just saying you know how to do those things is going to be stupid helpful, and Photon's pretty accessible in regards to that. Now, you could also go the absolute nerdy route and write your own server. There's tons of books on just writing dedicated game servers, and if you're gonna run into tons of obstacles and tons of hurdles. But just having that completed project start to finish, even one of the things I did is there was a book that was literally like, okay, we're gonna create this game called Cat Battle, and it's just literally just you just like. It's just like 100. It's like making like a StarCraft clone, but with like 100 cats, and just showing that from start to finish that you have, I've mastered dedicated servers. I know how to handle, a server load, all this crap. It's very helpful, and just going through that process, and it's going to be hard, not going to be really fun, because it is kind of one of the less fun aspects of game development is, server management and that kind of stuff. But it's very helpful. It's very important, and it makes their games work. Oh yes.
You said you're a designer. You want to be a game designer? Okay, so game jams might not always be applicable for, I would say, every single position out there. But what's going to be really important from the fact that you've done one is that you're going to be able to talk about it later. And you're going to be able to explain in interviews, like, what did you learn? What were the failings? What would you do next time differently? And that is huge, at least from an interview process, because then we can get a better understanding of your thought process. So not so much for portfolio, but good for interviews and life experience.
Awesome. Right now we're at 7:46. We have.
Start a little late. We can go a little longer.
Okay. Do you want to? We'll maybe take 2 more questions and then.
Well, for our Twitter audience,
Yeah.
let them know, are there any things they absolutely should not do?
Are there any things that you should absolutely not do in terms of in terms of game development or just in general?
No crime.
No crime.
Download games.
That eliminates take 2.
Pay your artists.
All right. So in terms of game development.
In terms of breaking into game dev.
All right. So in terms of breaking into game dev, are there anything that you should not do?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say this one right now. Never publicly bash a game of any kind or game developer of any kind. You want to be too busy to be negative, all right? And nobody wants to deal with that kind of drama or that kind of bitterness or that kind of just negativity. I mean, even if... Yeah, it's a very small industry, and especially here in Atlanta where we are much more collaborative than competitive. And everybody here, even though there aren't a lot of, well, I shouldn't say that. Everybody here knows a lot of the other people in the industry, even in other parts of the country. So really, never bash, never spread your negativity publicly. All right, if you've got stress, go work out.
I mean, just as an example of how small things are, I just met Bob, 3 weeks ago, and here we are again on a panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
But I've been here for years.
Well, you took my answer. I'm trying to think of another follow-up. Come back to me.
Yeah, I feel like Bob's was a mic drop right there. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say something similar. Just don't bash your previous employer. That's all I got. I'm with you guys.
Never submit someone else's work as your own.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
No plagiarism.
Huh? Yeah, don't fake it. That's a good point, too. Yep. We're stealing other people's answers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't lie on your resume. Don't take credit for other people's hard work. That's really bad. I'm just there's a million things that I don't know which one's the most, but you already said the most important ones. So, yeah.
Ultimately, be a good person. Be positive. Don't slam other people. Yeah. So just in life, just do good and
Be smart, be kind.
please rewind. Some people may not know what that is.
Yeah, just, be smart and be kind to others.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When building a portfolio, is it better to focus more on group projects that you've worked on, or solo projects, or does that not really matter?
Is it better to highlight in your portfolio group projects or works that you or projects that you've worked solo?
Yeah.
Is that what- yeah.
So group projects are actually fantastic to show that you are you can definitely work and develop with a team. It's critical, especially for larger teams, but also small teams alike. But if you do, if a lot of your work on your portfolio is group work, do mention what you did specifically, and then also how, you collaborated with the rest of your team. So, 2 wins for 1 attempt, just show your teamwork, but also how you contributed to the team.
I was going to say something similar. It's going to really depend upon the kind of role that you're going for. If you're more of a designer, yeah, it's going to be probably more of a group work. If you're a 3D modeler, probably more something solo. But similar as you said, you really kind of want to make sure, like, okay, if I'm doing a 3D model, if someone else did the concept, make sure you know who actually created the concept. So at least people know kind of what part you actually contributed.
When it comes to game development, and actually just creativity in general, a lot of what we create, this is your baby, right? This is our baby. And it already takes years of trust between people it takes years to develop a certain amount of trust between people. So you want to show your best, and you want to make sure that you're showing up. They talk about like success, 90% of it is showing up. Right? That's because they want to see that you're reliable, right? So you want to be consistent. You want to show that you can show up and put in the time and put in the sweat equity to make things happen. And even then, you're not guaranteed anything, right? So that's another thing too. In this industry, there's no sense of entitlement. Be appreciative of everything that happens. Work hard for it, right? But be appreciative when it happens. Don't think that just because you've done something that you deserve this, okay? That's the kiss of death. I cannot sit on my laurels. I could say I'm the greatest voice talent in the world. But guess what? If I don't put myself out there, if I don't market myself, if I don't go out and introduce to people and do what I need to do to audition and put myself out there to not get picked and not get chosen and get passed over, I know that I've been doing this long enough that I am still confident in my abilities, right? So even though they didn't pick me, it's not that they didn't like me. I'm awesome. They love me. But I wasn't right for their project. You have to remember that too. And you also have to remember that it takes years of trust, right? It takes years. Just think about you and your friends and in your circles. So imagine if you're trying to be a part of someone else's team that's delivering their baby, right? You've got to make sure that you treat their baby with respect and treat that their project with a certain level of passion and excitement and understand that. And so just appreciate that, because again, it takes years to develop that level of trust and weeks and months to develop that level of camaraderie and comfort. Just think about your own friend circles, right? And so especially when you're working on a project that we've all worked on, it takes time to make these things happen, okay? Video games take time to make happen. So you've got to put in that time.
Yeah.
Sorry, so someone asked earlier what not to do, and Bob just made me think of something. Don't give up. Yes. Because there's so many people that apply for jobs, and it does take a while, and it is a full-time commitment to get there, and we've all been rejected. Yeah, it happens. It does not mean you're a bad person. It does not mean you don't have great work. It just means that, as Bob said, you're just not the fit for that role. So just keep trying.
It still happens. It always happens. You'll get a little more comfortable with it, and just remember, it's not necessarily you, right? It's just that your project or whatever it is that they're looking for is something that's different than what they're seeing from your product or your project or your portfolio, okay? You are wonderful. You are amazing. You are a beautiful, unique snowflake, and the industry needs you, okay? There's nobody else like you. You're a wonderful, amazing creator with a capital C. Just remember that your project or your portfolio might not reflect whatever it is that they need at that particular time.
And it's a really small industry, and as long as you still make a good impression, there's been plenty of people that I've turned down for jobs, and I might email them like a couple weeks later and be like, hey, I know you weren't a fit for this, but you're a great fit for that. I'd like to go ahead and have you talk to the manager. So as long as just keep trying.
Yeah, that's just great overall advice for life in general. Game dev, outside game dev. I can't tell you how many times I've been rejected for jobs, and then sometimes it's a blessing. Other times, they, like you said, they come back like, hey, you weren't great for that role, but you know what? We're looking for, an analyst. Have you thought about that? So always put, and this is something that I stress to those of you who've been my students, and just really anybody who hears me talk, is put yourself out there to be rejected. It's okay to be rejected. Absolutely. And you've heard this from all of us. I can't stress it enough. And don't take it personally if somebody said, sorry, we're going to move on with another candidate. That's okay. It's not what they're looking for their project, for their baby, like you said. So it has nothing to do, with necessarily, it's not personal. Just,
you take it personally, and it feels personal, yeah. But it's not personal in that they're looking for something else. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Andrew.
For Cheesy Controller on Twitter, what are some interview do's and don'ts?
All right, Cheesy Controller on Twitter wants to know some interviews, do's and don'ts. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it all the way. That's you.
Thank you. A big do that I like to see is play the games of the company that you're going to go interview and have at least a base level understanding of what they make. You don't have to be able to, you don't need to master all the gods in Smite. All of our games are free to play, just tossing that out there. So it's good. It's worth checking them out. But at least give them a shot before you get to the interview, so at least you can speak intelligently about whatever product they're making.
This is going to sound really dumb, but because a lot of interviews are the same, and a lot of questions are actually sourced from something else. So if you really want to game it, learn some questions for interviews and figure out some good responses to them. It works a lot. It works charms. It helps your confidence because, if you're not great at improv like I am, you can have your responses ready to go.
The worst question is, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Even I will freeze on that.
I was literally on the drive over here going, okay, what am I going to say? I know they're going to ask me that. And I still messed it up, but I did better than if I went in cold. So keep that in mind.
Did terrific.
I know I said improv comedy is great and you need to know how to improv, but in addition to that, you also need to know how to prepare. Confidence comes from being properly prepared, right? If you know your abilities, if you know your range, if you know how long you worked on a certain project, if you know what the key roles were for everybody in this particular game jam, if you know that you came in third but not second or first, but you know that video game was amazing, you're gonna speak with confidence about that sort of thing, right? So proper preparation prevents, never mind, 7 Ps, and then just again, you can prepare for certain interviews, and so that way you're going in and and always consider yourself. Remember this: it's not just about the one particular job. You want to lay the foundation so that even though you might not get this job, again, Scarlet said she's reached out to people weeks after their interview if they shone, right? You're going to lay the foundation. Remember, if you have a strong foundation, you can walk all over the house for years and years and years, and that house is going to last for decades, for centuries. If it's built on a weak foundation, it's going to crumble, it's going to crack, and then it's going to fall apart. So make sure that when you go and you meet somebody, you want to lay that foundation and leave a positive impression, right? A strong, positive, lasting impression, okay? And it's not just about the one job. It's about the next 10 years of relationships so that when they have a certain idea or project that they'll call you up. That happened with James Simpson for one of his projects, Cutthroat Caverns, a mobile game. It was fantastic. He was working on this project, and again, he thought about me and called me up, and we made it happen. It was fantastic. I love you too, James. Thank you. But again, the relationships that you're going to form here in the GGDA, these things matter, right? The networking that you're going to make right here. Whenever I have questions or projects or I need stuff, again, this anime that we're working on producing, I called up Paul and I said, hey, Paul, I need your help, right? So you're going to form relationships with these people in this room, and in your own generation as well, with your people that are in your classes and in your own circles and in your own game jams. And these are the people that you're going to rely upon. Remember that. And it's not just about the academics, it's also about putting in that time and that sweat equity, and about playing video games with them and talking trash and having a good time and eating pizza and just, being a real person.
Paul, come on down. Grab the mic.
Yes. Paul.
Yeah, this was actually.
Ladies and gentlemen. Yes. I'll give up my tip. Come on over here.
All right, yeah. Well, you're probably wondering who the hell that was. My name's Paul Jenkins. Amongst other things, I've worked on a number of big console games like God of War and stuff like that. I wrote for Marvel for years. I wrote the Origin of Wolverine, so I've done this for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, we've done this for a while. I would say don't start with an apology, and don't apologize for yourself. If you walk into an interview, right, and you start apologize, I wasn't prepared, I'm really sorry, this isn't finished, blah, blah, blah. The moment that you do that, you've basically handed someone the thing that they're looking for, which is, why isn't this going to work? And what you really want to do, which I think the panelists have touched on, is it's going to work because you're confident. Confidence is exactly equal to accomplishment. And then one more thing, this is my standard. There's a maxim that says writers write, or creators create. And that's not true. Writers finish. So don't walk in with half a thing and say, here's something that I'm sort of dabbling in. It's like never finishing a song. At least be able to show somebody that you know how to finish something, I think. Because if you can show that you understand how to finish something, somebody will probably have a little bit more confidence in you. That's from the guy with the grey beard that's done it for a long time. There you go.
Thank you. And how are we on time? I mean, that seems like a great place to wrap it up. Yeah. All right. So, yeah. Yeah. If